All right, welcome back to the Double Play channel where I show you how you can put your money to work in two places at one time by leveraging the cash value of a maximum overfunded life insurance policy. Today I'm going to stray a little bit from the Double Play theme again and talk about how to properly calculate an annualized rate of return. And this is important because many people just simply don't understand how to properly account for their rate of return on an annualized basis. So if this is important to you, stick around after the intro and I'll break it all down for you. All right, thanks for sticking around. I'm tomrutkowski with Innovative Retirement Strategies, and I created the Double Play channel because I know how frustrating it can be to try and find information online. You know, everybody wants to get your information. The information tends to be very vague, but you'll find that on these videos and on my website and blog posts that I will answer just about every possible question that you can possibly think about regarding investing in real estate using a life insurance policy. More specifically, leveraging the cash value of a maximum overfunded life insurance policy to invest in real estate. And I give away all this information for free because I'm confident that you're going to find that I'm the most knowledgeable expert in this field that you're going to find online. So all the information you need is going to be right here. And along the way, we're going to debunk all the myths and misconceptions about life insurance. And I'm going to give you the tools that you need without ever talking to a life insurance agent to get the most efficiently designed policy possible. So with that, today's topic is how to properly calculate an annualized rate of return. And the way I'm going to do that, I want to go through it by just showing you why this is important, why an average, a simple average doesn't work, why you can't just simply take your ending value and divide it by your beginning value and get a total return. Obviously, that's not an annual return. And then I'm going to show you, we're going to go through some examples of how the formulas work and start with some simple examples, work through some more complicated examples, and we'll get started. All right, before we do that, I've got to take care of a couple of housekeeping items. One, this information in these videos is purely educational. There is no advice being offered, no tax advice, no legal advice, no financial advice. And the primary purpose of life insurance is for the death benefit protection. Any other purpose is purely ancillary. And since I'm sure you're going to find that this information is extremely valuable, be sure to subscribe to this channel, and while you're down there, like this video so that you're notified whenever I come out with any new videos. So with that, let's get started. So let's take a look at this image. This is the S&P 500 that I just grabbed off of Yahoo Finance a couple days ago. It's December 2nd today as I'm recording this. And what I've got here is almost 20 full years of data, from actually more than that, from 2000, January 1st of 2000, all the way through the close of business a couple days ago whenever I grabbed this snapshot. And if you were looking at this, you know, what would you say that your annualized rate of return is? I mean, it looks kind of impressive. It's a nice steep curve starting from way back in 2000, increasing to, you know, to the point where you would have almost, looks like you would have almost tripled your money had you had your money in the market for all that time. But is tripling your money over 22 years really a good return? Do you know that for certain? And how do you calculate that? So that's what we're going to do in this video is show you how you can calculate an accurate annualized return so that as you're doing projections and you're analyzing the performance on your own investments, that you know how you performed. So back in 2016, I did a blog post on my website on how to properly calculate an annualized rate of return. And that blog post was in response to a conversation that I'd had online with an investor on BiggerPockets, an online real estate investing forum. And this guy was talking, I think he was poo-pooing life insurance, but He was talking about this great return that he had in the stock market, that his investments had gone up over 50% over the 8 years prior to when he had, to the time of this posting. And he was speaking about this like it was a really great return. And I was thinking to myself that, well, 50%, 8 years, I mean, that's an average of about 6.25%. And knowing that that was the average, the actual annualized return was something less than that. So I decided I'd write a blog post just kind of letting everybody know how to do that. And the purpose of this video is just to have a video to go along with that blog post, just because I know a lot of people like to learn visually as opposed to simply reading. So with that, let's take a look at some numbers. All right, so now what I want to do is just take you through a couple of examples, and where we're going to begin is with the simple example of the investor that I dealt with on BiggerPockets a few years ago. And then we're going to look at a more practical example of calculating the annualized rate of return on the S&P 500 over the last 22 years. And then I'm going to take you under the hood of the double play model so that you can see how I'm using the calculations in the model. And we're going to progress from easier through a little bit more difficult. But let's go to the model now. Actually, let's go to the screen. So first off, just so you can find it, if you're interested in finding the blog post that I'm talking about, just bring up the search in my website and type Annualized, and it will take you right to the blog post on how to properly calculate an annualized rate of return. So, but anyway, where I wanted to start with was bringing up this online calculator, and what we're going to do here is we're going to take a look at a simple example of what this investor that I dealt with on BiggerPockets had. So he said that he earned a 50% return on his stock market investments over the 8 years prior to 2016. So let's just look at an average and why an average doesn't work. So first, he said he made a 50% return. So let's put 50 into the calculator, and what I'm talking about is just keep an eye up here. You don't necessarily need to see what I'm clicking on. I'll tell you where to look otherwise. But 50% return divided by 8 years gives us an average return of 6.25%. Oops. And let me just show you why that doesn't work. So if we start with, let's just say we bought a house for $250,000. Actually, before I do that, let's take a look at the formula, just in case people don't understand what the formula is for annualizing return or compounding interest. So 1 plus the rate of return that you expect, close parentheses, sorry, this is I'm writing with my mouse, raised to the t, the number of years that you're compounding out over. So if you want to copy this formula, just pause the video here and write that down. I mean, I hope most real estate investors understand that. So it's 1 plus the rate raised to the t time. So we're going to use 6.25%, which was the average return, and see if we can get in 8 years our 250 to turn into 375. So 250,000 times 1.0625, that's 1 plus the rate of return. We're going to use the exponent function, just so you can see it here. That's this button, raised to the 8th. And clearly, you can see, whoops, wrong button. You can see that we would have had $406,000. So using the average rate of return is dramatically overestimating the actual growth that would have occurred to get from $250,000 to $375,000 over 8 years. So how do you do it properly? What is the proper way to calculate an annualized return? Well, that's why we're all here, Tom. All right, so I'm going to show you this a couple different ways. This is the scarier way that you can do it, but I'll show you a better way here in a minute. But the inputs we need are the value at the end over the value at the beginning, and then we take the root of the number of years. So not a square root, not a cube root, it's the little root of the number of years that we're talking about. And of course that's going to give us a number, and that minus 1 is the percentage return that we had, percentage annualized rate of return. So again, pause the video if you want to copy that formula down, but I'd recommend waiting for the next one that I give you. So let's clear that. Value at the end was $375,000 divided by the beginning was $250,000. I'm leaving the zeros off, it doesn't matter in the calculation. That gives us 1.5. So that minus 1 gives us our total return, 50%. But we are going to use this scary looking function. So that gives you the x is our value of 1.5, and y is going to be the root that we're looking for. So here we're just going to click on that, and we're going to use 8. And if you take and subtract out the 1 here, minus 1, that is our rate of return, about 5.2%. Let me circle that. Over the 8 years. Now, to know that that's the right number, let's just store that in memory and work backwards. So we start with our $250,000 times, open parentheses, 1 plus memory recall, which is the rate, 5.2, close parentheses. Now we're going to raise it to the 8 years. Let me show you that button real quickly. Again, we're using this button to the 8th. And you can see that that got us back to 375. So clearly you can see that 5.2% is the proper annualized rate of return that will get you from your beginning value of $250,000 to $375,000. So an annualized rate of return is not an average. It is the right number to use in any financial calculation. It is the number that takes into account all of the ups and downs in the market between the time that you're beginning an investment and where you ended up. So a lot of times people say, oh, you don't account for all the down markets and this and that. No, I am. Trust me. I won't recite my creds. All right, so I said I'd show you an easier formula. So let's take a look at that one. Just simply open parentheses, the value ending over the value beginning. Oops, bad B there. Close parentheses. And we're raising that to the reciprocal of the number of years. And that's just a cheat. If you've ever taken any advanced math, you know that that is the root of that number of years. So it's just simply the reciprocal. The way to, again, pause the video if you want to write the formula down, but this is something that you can actually put into a spreadsheet and code, and I'll show you that here in a minute. So let's close that and go through the math again. $375,000 divided by our starting value, beginning value, 250 equals 1.5, 5 raised to the 8, and then I'm going to show you a new function. This is the reciprocal key. So you don't have to raise it to 1/8. You just, it will take 8 is a given, and when you hit the button, it'll give you 1/8. So I've got the 8 in there, hit the button, turns it into 1/8 equals, and you can see we've got our 1.2. So here is a little bit easier way. I'm sure Excel has a button or formula for this root function, but for me personally, I just find it easier to use the reciprocal function and raise it to the power of that. So that is a simple example. Now let's take a look at a more practical example. So let's go back here. All right, so this is a moving target. As I'm recording this video, the numbers are actually changing, so I'm doing this on the fly. But this is 21 years of the S&P 500, actually 22 years. From January 1st of 2000 through today, December 2nd of 2021. And some things of note here. I mean, clearly it looks like the market's gone up during that time, and it looks like it basically tripled in value. But some things of note are right after this 20-year period begins, we had 3 years of down markets, and then it took about the next 5 years for the market to come back. And just about the time that it got back what you originally had, you lost some money again because the market crashed in 2007 when the markets crashed. And it took, ever since the bottom of the market here in March of 2009, it's been a fairly steady bull market going all the way back up. There's been a few ups and downs in here, but that would have been a nice time to be in the market, as opposed to this entire 20-year period where that whole first decade, first 12 years were kind of a bust. You basically got your money back by the time you got to 2012 from whatever you had back in 2000. So I would say I'd like to see your estimates as to what you think the annualized rate of return is here over these 22 years. So go ahead and type that into the comments down below. And while you're doing that, I'm going to move on here. All right, the ending value of the market here right now, this instant is 45.84. If we go to our calculator, our ending value is 45.84 divided by the beginning value back in 2000 was 13.94. So again, we basically tripled our money there, which this kind of just confirms that. And we're going to simply raise that to the 22nd power, take the reciprocal, and you can see that our return over 22 years was only 5.55%. So I don't know about you, but that is much lower than I think what most people expect the stock market to perform. So the last 22 years have not been great for the stock market. If you ask any financial advisor, they typically will tell you that the market does 8 to 9% over the long run. So here you can see that over the last 20 years, we have not seen traditional historical market performance. So that's that. What I want to do now is take you under the hood of the double play model and show you how I use these calculations on almost a daily basis. So let's go back to the model here. And this is my double play model. And this is the tab called Annualized Returns. And what I use this for is when I'm running a life insurance illustration for someone, I want to use an accurate, or as accurate as I can, growth assumption. And so what I've got here are the last 31 years of changes in the S&P 500 from publicly available sources. And I'm basically just looking at what a hypothetical indexed universal life would have done given an 8.5% cap. Actually, that cap can be changed to whatever you want to estimate, but current caps are about 8.5% as of right now. Floor is 0. So just as an example, in 1990, the markets went down 6%, and the hypothetical IUL with the floor of 0 would have just earned 0, or you would have kept your value. So in order to facilitate the annualized rate of return calculations, I'm looking at the growth of $100 over time so that I have a set of beginning and ending values to use for my calculations. So $100, if it would have lost 6% in the market, would have gone down to 94. And with the IUL, $100 earning 0 is going to remain at $100. Then in the 1991, the markets went up almost 16%, so your $94 growing at 16% would be $109. And then the IUL earning 8.5% would be up to about $108. So this goes on year over year. I'm just applying these growth rates to my $100 to give me the beginning and ending values for any point in time. So if I scroll down to the very end here, I have my summary calculations. So I'm calculating annualized returns over 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and 30-year periods. And I stuck these averages in just to highlight why an average rate of return doesn't work. So if I scroll back up a little bit just so you can get the calculations. This average, 13.42, is clearly higher than the annualized return of 12.76. So if you were trying to project how your retirement funds would look based on historical market performance over your lifetime, and you use an average rate of return, you would say, in the real world, had it come up at 12.76, you would have come up very short on your planning. You wouldn't have the money it takes to retire. So again, this highlights the importance of using the right number, the annualized rate of return that takes time and compounding interest into account. So you get the average. That's just simply the last 5 years summed up and divided by 5 for my annualized rate of return. And I know that the formulas are going to be very difficult to see because, especially if you're on a mobile device, I blew up the text of the spreadsheet so you could see it, but the formula itself is kind of hidden. What I'm doing here is it's automated to basically calculate it for each one of these periods, so I don't have to recreate a whole new formula for each one. So I'm using a lookup function, and B37 is this 2020 right here. So it's looking up the very last year in the table, and it's pulling in this start ending value of $1,061. Then the next thing that it's doing is it's looking up 2020 minus 5, which gives me 2015. So it's looking up 582. So 1,061 divided by 582, that's the value at the end of 16. That's the value going in beginning of 2016. So that compounded, or raised to the 5th root, gives us a 12.76% annualized rate of return. So if I apply 12.76 compounding interest to 582, you can rest assured it's going to get back to 1,061. And that's true for my 10, 15, 20, 25, and 30. So understand that when I'm giving you these numbers, these are the accurate rates of return. These are not, bogus BS numbers. So with that, that's kind of all I wanted to show you. Let's return back to the presentation itself and wrap things up. So I want you to understand how to truly know that you have achieved your to truly know that you have achieved your financial objectives. It is important to know your right numbers. A simple average does not take time and compounding interest into account. And an ROI doesn't take time into account. And an annualized return is the only number that will get you from your starting value to your ending value, taking time and compounding interest into account. And Again, if you're hungry for more information and you're not ready to talk to a life insurance agent yet, I highly recommend going out to Facebook and joining my Double Play group there. And that is a community of clients who are using life insurance to invest in real estate, the Double Play. People who are using other people's life insurance policies to invest in real estate, as well as people who are just simply interested in the subject. So I highly recommend joining that community. And if you've got questions and you want to find out what real people are doing in the real world, go ahead and post those questions there, and somebody will get back to you. And if I don't see anybody answering, I'll get back to you myself. You can subtly engage an agent. In addition to that, be sure to subscribe to this channel so that you have a bookmark to find all of the other videos that I have that will pretty much answer every question that you can possibly think of regarding the Double Play. And then again, you've got my website, which I consider to be a no fluff zone. And again, it's chock full of content with a few downloads that you got to give me your email address to get. But for the most part, everything that you need to know to answer all of the questions you might have is available with no commitments whatsoever on my website. And lastly, to truly understand if this is going to work for you, you do need to see see an illustration and the business model customized for you. So a link to book an appointment on my calendar is in the description box down below, as well as on the screen right now. So go ahead and do that when you're finally ready to talk to a life insurance agent. And otherwise, that's all I have for you, and I'll see you in the next video.